life, a new path without sin. Is that even possible? I doubt it. Mountain of truth will move through and uncover. Fountain of youth retained inside of the brain. It's no wonder. The wonder is caused. The rumbling of thunder will pause and raise the raised hands of the gods. Nameless of the laws, broken stone against the odds. Swimming side to side, a little rope and dope. Given as I hold the throne, never choke. This is mission suicide. Moving all out, headed for broke, so it's do or die. Can you hear me now, homie? Because it's neither you or I. With the deeper look into these cool, shallow, hallowed eyes. Many past lives live and analyze. Seen, smelled, felt, recognized. Confused, lost, and traumatized. Left mind hypnotized. Coordinated, overweight, supersized. Contemplating, supervised. By the blaze, over blank stares, polarized. Who the hell am I, homie? I'm feeling so lonely and phony, naked and floaty. You father, find sin. Allow you new life, new path without sin. Is that even possible? I doubt it is. Yo, check it, yo, yeah. Now I'm down on my knees with both of these broken palms pressed together so firmly. Scars so deep from a life of burning. The pain I was led to believe was part of learning. Tell me what the hell is my mind still mining? Years grinding, turning and churning. Sin and the same. Pictures out the hell from my pain. Lost souls screaming and yelling. Hurting, yearning. War torn child and homie is filthy scurry. Put veterans, my heart is preferring. Ass whoopers taking and giving. I put blood so much into my scrimmage. Now that's all curvy. Out my past village of beans. As I pillage your village. What the fuck can you feel my rap? That's all searching. Open your bitch. You get the dealage. I'm the realest. To walk upon the flame. Long gone. Now I'm living. Allow me to begin. New life, a new path without sin. Is that even possible? I doubt it is. I doubt it is. I doubt it is. Yo, I'm so tired and worn down. Lost, broken, loose inside, torn apart and open from the middle ground. Lend me an ear to hear this old ticker's ear sheared off. Still beat pound and give off sound, busted and rusted, but it still tick tops. Because if not simply put, then it's kick rocks. Sayonara, gone and off with my flip flops. Sound the shit walk, strapped up and suited and booted with all the clips locked in and loaded. Where to begin? Slow down, dismantling all the games. Haters so lonely, ejaculating and floating. Waking my knees, as if I was floating and blinded by design. Knowing the wager is time flowing, the dangers of life knowing the angles are right, showing the hidden visions, truth growing. Listen, this mission is still going in time. Prison we glisten with interceptors for missing all itself. Give me Father, I have sinned. When I awaken, allow me to begin. A new life, a new path without sin. Is that even possible? I doubt it is. Down on my knees. Down on my knees. Down on my knees. Oh, yeah,
What's going on, Goblin? How you doing today, man? Right on. Sounds good. Good to see you, man. You had to change your name again? Are they still messing with you? I guess he left. That sucks, dude. I'm sorry.
Now I'm not sure if the game that we play's the same as the one that they want us to. It seems all they want is an instant replay, but I will never be another copy. I will never be another clone like the ones who have failed before me. Until the day that the game gets boring, finna see an original, homie, mark my
I
words.
hear 'em all belligerently screaming, we want another original copies. Scotty, beam 'em up, please. Leave 'em get rapping. See it, motherfucker, only thing that I'm rapping up is this mic when I kill. Beats and melodies, these streets is telling me I do it just for the thrill of it, but I still love it. I'm cold and rough, rugged. Do I feel something? Nah, no, but I peel muffins on a regular basis with no rubber or toe tucker. But get it straight, you fools, I'm no sucker. I will levitate all who oppose a cold fucker that has grown tougher, so hide your hand and fold. Chicken your jaws, poker face, known bluffers. All names erased, title own busters. My place up in this space is Mr. Soul Crusher. So watch as I separate and dissect this mess of a cluster.
Now I'm not sure if the game that we play's the same as the one that they want us to. It seems all they want is an instant replay, but I will never be another copy. I will never be another clone of the ones who have failed before me. Until the day that the game gets boring, finna see an original, homie, mark my words.
Can you hear me, homie? The last of a dying breed, and I know you don't know me, but lonely as we are in the lost and bogged down categories. Statutory rape to the game, what a shame, who to blame but us for the fame and the fortune, no trust. Selling ourselves shot for a buck, what the fuck ever happened to just being real? What's the deal anymore? What has happened to us? Wake up, this is no fairy tale or magic school bus, it's a ride for our lives. A falsified truth, a vision unclear, so take a good long look into the mirror. Yeah, you know, it just seems like this game is so washed up anymore. No real cats in it, just a bunch of polluted rappers dealing with the toll.
Now I'm not sure if the game that we play's the same as the one that they want us to. It seems all they want is an instant replay, but I will never be another copy. I will never be another clone of the ones who have failed before me. Until the day that the game gets boring, finna see an original, homie, mark my words.
Yo, garbage pail kids got this whole game twisted, thinking you could intrude, how rude. What is this, a motherfucking soup kitchen open for business? Well, if it is, kids, I'ma swallow my shit list. So fucking forget this and mark my words. There's no need for a witness, just listen and learn to the words that you're being told. This game's for grown-ups, and it ain't you a puppy, you only a week old. You know what? Fuck it, I'ma let y'all finish off this beat. I ain't got time for these weak-ass cats. I'm out.
Now I'm not sure if the game that we play's the same as the one that they want us to. It seems all they want is an instant replay, but I will never be another copy. I will never be another clone of the ones who have failed before me. Until the day that the game gets boring, finna see an original, homie, mark my words.
Mark my words.
This is an LF production.
If I only acted on the half of my thoughts, I would be locked away. The key would be destroyed. Infirmary fervently deserve these thoughts on purpose. Stay roots to this rap lifestyle. That is security. Flows from my heart. You see it certainly. It's my life. It's my motto. Burning up inside of my chest. Push the music, I will kill this. Never necessitate my plan again, become a new man. I'm in, all in, I'm doubling up on my chest and understand I'm gonna win. Whatever the cause is, I'm lacing up my chest. I'm in the balls when I step on the scene. I'm gonna walk with this. I need a witness because my fight is to hear my shit. This is getting real. Nobody this in my life. It's not prettiness. More like this beat music and still, you'll still catch me on the street. I kill melodies, I feel the beat running through my body. I just know I'm back like hungry. I got a potty mouth, and that's if I give a flying fuck about your ass. Anyways, I'm in and out your home, and your premises, taking what you own. I'm a nemesis in the zone forever. I'm self-fulfilling, up the middle finger, screaming, fucking Cowabunga.
Lift your hand and open it. Then you slip away. I see it. After all the shots, they will hide on the
so deeply, I just know I'ma fuck this bitch so quick. Clever indeed, I'm known by the sense I was able to breathe. Looking forward, flying, golden child, one drop to see my president. Now, slow down the beat for a minute, just give it a moment to settle down, just live it. Anything from here on out is all it. I'm not timid, but more like exquisitively quizzed by the game, live and die by it. Now I came, diabolic, higher calling, symbolic, diatonic, ironic, alright, so ill-advised, in a trick, in a touch, I kill lies. The lies that lives beneath these eyes is my story. I'm one man only with the wrath of the gods. My presence is surrendered next 10 to 9. I'm perfected excellence, I'm next to none. The next to come is the second coming son of the sun. Drinking purity, reborn life is just beyond. Like Moses parting the Red Sea. I don't run from problems, I make them face on. Now I'm solving, erasing, past life living, still chasing. Lost dreams and raising, close to holy grace. Needing my name and bending down in the grave. Lone star, hell, face down till I found my emotional. Ready to hit the ground. What you wanna do about it? I'm a true G for genius. I can only see automatic clips. I have risen to the top of this game and made clips. And if you keep scrubbing on me, I'ma have to put you in Schindler's List. Class dismissed, game over, my shit list does exist. Life's a bitch, fucking snitch, dig a ditch. We gon' killing people just trying to get rich. Evil in our blood running through our veins, built into sinister birds. Illness, critters of happiness, coming to plan and abandoning all themselves. Murder hurts deep inside. To know that we live and die by these codes and only help to provide. Like the suicidal ride that we're on. all cases, I'm gone. I'm flying down, my arrival is just necessary. Kinda like the spiral down the barrel of a rifle. It's just messy, testy, 1, 2, 1, 2. Reckless abandonment. I'm the next candidate. Mannequin, puppetry, purple stain, cover me publicly. Suspect B. Righteously fighting this feeling on a constant basis. Yeah. I just need you to understand that it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for me. So just check it out. Yeah. It was hard for me at first, but I finally awoken from a broken state of mind. My eyes are wide open, and this time they ain't closing. So listen carefully to the truest words ever spoken. Man, with all the dilemmas and crossroads that I have came across, I have finally chosen a path worth choosing. I'm not losing, I'm the boss of my thoughts, and anyone willing to test that motherfucking theory will get dropped. So watch as I expand my wingspan. I am more than a man, develop this master plan. I'm a sinner and a saint. I will paint the picture of my life. It won't be pretty. Deep inside I fight the demons, dark and gritty. Shitty situations, face pittiness, filled with depression on a daily basis. Just asking that question was enough for me to understand this life's lessons, taught through the memories of life's wisdom, with more than organisms in the system we call life. I'm now gone and off and traveling to depths of disparity with no regrets, just to find the clarity, release this inner stress, and find life's true meaning, finalize my every breath deep inside. I know it's the moment, so I must accept. I'm now gone and off and traveling to depths of disparity with no regrets, just to find the clarity, release this inner stress, and find life's true meaning, finalize my every breath deep inside. I know it's the moment.
All right, whoever's here, you gonna talk? Oh, fucking bullshit.
In our latest Wide Greenhouse Global Model Earthship, which is our product that we are trying to introduce into the real world, that exemplifies all of our concepts, but we have to make those concepts presented in a palatable way for the real world.
So I understand that the definition of an Earthship has evolved over time. How would you define an Earthship now in 2018?
Well, the definition is just, it's a vessel to live in on this planet that addresses 6 major needs of people that they need for survival. And those 6 issues are comfortable shelter that doesn't use fossil fuel, water, electricity, treating your own sewage, dealing with your own garbage, and having your own food. Those 6 things are things that nobody can really have a life without addressing. So we want this vessel to address those 6 things, and that we call an earthship.
You say that those 6 points are more fundamental than the building blocks. You know, earthships are renowned for using tires and bricks and cans and things like that. Beautiful effect. Would you say that those are surplus to requirement compared to the 6 points, or are they integral to an earthship?
Well, both. They're integral, but they don't. In other words, they're the way tires and cans and bottles as a building material are the way that the earthship addresses garbage. We use it. We reuse it. So that's the way that earthship does it. If a person is just addressing those issues in their life and in their building, we don't care how they do it. We think it's more important that they address those issues, because I with as many intelligent people that are much more intelligent than me on this planet, I think those issues could be addressed a lot better than we do it. But we're just trying to cause people to address it.
Got it. So following on from that, there appears to be a need for earthships, but how would you, in your vision, what would you say that, why is there a need for earthships on planet Earth?
Well, there is a need for those 6 points to be addressed in building. Now, that translates into a need for earthships as we know them. But the need is that the people of the planet are, ruining the planet's ability to take care of them and to make a home for them on this earth. So that's being done in so many ways, from shit running into bays and rivers to electricity being made by polluting nuclear and coal-fired power plants to just endless crimes almost. And we're trying to get the sustenance of people to be
That is cool.
an asset to the planet, not a detriment to the planet. And that's kind of the reason earthships are needed.
Yeah, agreed. So you were a qualified architect, but now you go by the definition of a biotech. Is that right? Earthship biotecture? Why biotecture, not architecture?
Well, the basic reason is that architecture as a profession is just not getting radical enough to address the issues of the time. The issues of the time are changing fast. They say global warming is now happening much faster than everybody thought, whereas 5-6 years ago, people were arguing about whether it was even a factor. And so architecture is not, because of its own little dogma, its own little credential, its own little, high hat, as a profession, it's not capable of stepping up and acting on what needs to be acted on now. So I just invented a new profession I called it biotecture, and it's acting on the 6 points. It doesn't really care about the tradition and culture and dogma of architecture.
Interestingly, I was hearing a talk by a guy called Max Murdo, who's known in the UK for upcycling, and he shared a very similar view of architects, essentially saying that they weren't putting the people at the centre of it, and we were going beyond that to put the people and the planet integrated into the structure.
Because you can't separate people and planet. That's the thing. Our dogma has us separated from the planet. Our, the way we live is separate from the planet. We got to be the same as the planet and address both together.
Gotcha. So I'm actually staying at the moment in one of the pit houses over by the castle, one of your original can structure buildings. And you've also built a pyramid, is that right?
Yes.
So tell us a bit about form. I appreciate that the 6 principles are the core, but how does form of structure, what's your vision of form when it comes to biotecture?
Well, the pyramid's a different story on form, but I don't care about form, and I don't necessarily care about design. I care about what the phenomena of this planet tell me to do to address these 6 points. And I liken it to like a boat. In other words, you're the designer of the boat. Now, if you're an idiot, you're going to make the boat all pretty and have all these different things that happen. but you're going to put it out on the sea and it's going to sink. My first objective with the boat is it must float. I don't care what it looks like. I want it to float the best way it can and be as safe a vessel on the sea as it possibly can be, and a complete holistic vessel on
Look
the
at
sea.
that
That's
shit.
what I want first. When it does
Holy
that, then I'll
shit.
decorate it.
That is
So
beautiful.
that's form. Form is whimsy, and that's what architecture is.
Look
It's
at
whimsy.
that.
Architecture
Oh my
used
God.
to be form to
That is just
encounter
beautiful.
phenomena. That's what a pyramid is. Pyramid is a form that encounters phenomena, be it the kinetic, magnetic issues on this globe, and the various things out in the solar system and the universe that the pyramid actually does address and introduce a connection to. So there's a situation where form, again, the architects of the pyramid didn't make a pyramid just because they thought it was beautiful. They made a pyramid because it was the thing that was needed to do this. That's what an earthship is, and that's what a pyramid is.
So, Mike, I'm wondering, where do you see Earthships going in 20 years' time? What's your vision for them?
I think I'm starting to see, ever since the beginning of the concept, there's been a crescendo. In other words, in the beginning, I was an idiot. I was a freak on the mesa. I was a disgrace to the architectural community. And I saw that slowly change, and I saw people becoming more aware of the condition of the planet. And I became the right guy in the right place at the right time. And now I'm seeing it crescendo even more to like people are wanting to go in this direction. So the crescendo is happening. And now that's encouraging. So I have to meet the challenge. I mean, people are looking at this concept, and I have to keep trying to make it worthy of millions, if not billions, of people looking at it. You know, and so I see that it has the potential to evolve into how we live on this planet. Not necessarily Earthships, our interpretation of this, but people recognizing that those 6 points must be dealt with as if they were utilities, or if they were, you know, what people need to live. Not a doctrine, not a political thing, not a religion, but a logic. I see this logic coming to the people and the planet, and I see it. I don't visualize it in any crystallized way. I just see it as a possibility for us to become to this planet like trees are.
Gotcha. Now, you also rent out Earthships, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about that. When did you start renting and why?
Well, the renting of Earthships, you know, of course, everything we do has to somehow be seated in business to some extent, because you know we have to fund ourselves basically.
Wow.
Yeah, financial sustainability.
Yeah, we have to play that game. It's not the ultimate game, but it is the game. It's the tool. And so back in the early days, I was making these buildings that people were curious about them, but they didn't want to buy them at all. So nobody wanted to buy them, but they were curious. So I started letting people stay in them for a night, and then that grew into what we call the Airbnb nightly rentals of Earthships now, Airbnb, and we rent them, and we don't have to sell them that way. And you know, we do sell them, but we rent them until we sell them. And so the rental thing happened as a way of trying to make the building pay for itself, because nobody wanted to buy it. And so now people do want to buy them, and they want to rent them. And so now it's a demonstration situation. It's like people that they're still, you know, most of the people on the planet don't even know what we're talking about still. And when they come here in the winter, in February, they're sitting in this room. It's warm. They're sitting here in a t-shirt, bare feet. They've got electricity. They've got high-speed internet. They got hot water. They got water. They are containing in their own sewage and growing food up and down the greenhouse. I mean, it blows their minds. So these buildings are a demonstration of what can be done. And that has become more important than the actual financial nightly rental aspect. In other words, I don't want to sell these buildings all at once because I need them to be here and available to demonstrate this kind of living. And so the nightly rental, the rental of airships just came about as a business economic way of supporting their evolution.
And what would you say it is about an Earthship that people love? Because am I right in saying you've got quite a lot of guests? They're popular. Why do you think people love them so much?
They are popular. They're very popular, actually, and there's nothing but like 5-star and great reviews usually. And it used to be different. It used to be people would say, oh, well, this is okay and that's okay. But we responded to that and we just keep making them better and better. And now the reviews are all really good. And the reason is everybody is now aware of the problems with the planet, global warming, climate change, and all that. They're aware of dwindling resources, and they see these buildings addressing that, and it blows their minds. So they are, and then we actually have gotten the point to the point where the boat floats, so to speak. So we decorate them up and play with them that way, and people love that. I mean, they love the way they look. They love the way they feel. They're not plankety plank when you walk across the floor of a frame house. They're quiet. They're strong. They're massive structures that are like a womb that take care of you. People recognize that. They recognize the looks and aesthetics that we built into them, and they recognize and are starting to understand the fact that they will take care of them. They think it is the way of the future.
Agreed. That womb-like concept I can definitely relate to. Having spent many years living in a yurt, it can be raining outside and you're super comfortable inside. It feels to me like Earthships have just gone numerous steps beyond that to facilitate that proximity to Mother Nature, whilst being extremely comfortable. Which is what you guys have achieved very successfully. What kind of occupancy rate would you say you are getting at the Earthships?
I'd say, well, we have the first Earthship, historic first Earthship in town called the Hobbit House, is rented 28 days a month, and I think the other ones here in the community or further out of town, I think they're probably 80-85%.
That's absolutely excellent. Aside from Earthships, what other types of structure are you personally drawn to?
None.
Fair point. All right, so in the UK, there's a lot of people at the moment really interested in self-builds. We've got some great communities like the Lammas community in West Wales. I'm doing various interesting things, and I feel that whole grassroots movement is filtering through common awareness, and in fact, we're seeing a lot of artisans building funky places to stay in the UK and beyond at the moment. What advice would you give to someone thinking of self-building?
Well, I would say address those 6 points. Address those 6 points any way you can. And I'm actually interested in any way of addressing those 6 points. You get off onto a lot of tangents that don't address the 6 points, but they address 1 point quite well or something. I think you need to think in layers, 6 layers, to address those 6 points with every building. And, like a straw bale building, for instance. Well, it's a great concept because it's a renewable method of building, but it doesn't have mass. And there are a lot of things about it that don't do what we need to have done in the stability of a building. Straw bale is a great insulator outside of mass. We've done it. We've wrapped a entire building in straw bale. It's fine. But people think one aspect is enough. It's not. I mean, if you build a building out of renewable product like straw bale, if you're not addressing the 6 points, it's just as bogus as anything else. And I think the advice I would have is to understand those 6 points, and you determine if you can live without one of them. If you can live without water,
Oh, cool.
okay, fine. But if you can't, your building needs to harvest water. It's that kind of a thing. Your building, no matter what one of these directions that you take, must address all of those 6 points. Every building that's built must address those. It's just as important to me as what good is a building if the roof leaks?
Yeah.
What good is a building if it's not a good shelter for you? Okay? Everybody agrees that a building needs a good roof so it doesn't leak rain on you. Well, I'm adding 5 other points to that. I'm saying there is no such thing in this day and age as a good building that doesn't address those 6 points.
Okay. And finally, if people wanted to find out a little bit more information about Earthships, where should they go to look?
The information about Earthships, we have earthship.com, earthshipglobal.com. We have Facebook sites about Earthship.
Let me hear you say hello, hello.
There you go. Earthships.
Interesting. The state of New Mexico gave us 2 acres to do any kind of experimental architecture we wanted to.
See, they're built into the earth.
In New Mexico, we've put aside hundreds of acres to test nuclear bombs. So Mike, the architect, went to the legislature in New Mexico and said, like, hey, let us experiment with housing.
Look at that skill.
And they actually gave us 2 acres to set aside to do whatever we want and experiment any way we want.
That
So
is-
we're doing things that are not normally accepted by counties and permitting and all that kind of stuff.
that is so cool.
Absolutely no restrictions.
No restrictions. The county comes and just kind of observes once in a while. This is our bottle making lab for the academy, because we have a school here where we teach students how to build Earthships and all our techniques. And this is where we cut bottles in half, then we tape them together, and they make these beautiful little bricks that light comes through. Home Depot, you probably pay $5 for a brick like that. So then we're gonna find a matching one, tape them together, and then it's a brick for free. And the county brings us bottles, the county brings us tires, county brings us mulch. We use trash. We use whatever society is done with, and we're going to use it in housing.
That is so fucking cool.
This is going to be a huge complex where we can house students in the future. Mike wants to put a river through it. So yeah, we decided to make an outdoor amphitheater because sometimes we have 60 students here.
Why tires?
Oh, tires are just free, and they're gigantic bricks. And filled with dirt, they just make this incredible structure. So we use tires for everything we can. Tires are walls, tires are foundations, tires are footings. They are big, strong, free bricks.
Look at that shit.
This whole structure has been made by students over the years, and it's just all made out of bottles, cans, and tires.
Wow.
So this is
This is going to be student housing.
going to be like an apartment.
Yeah. And there's going to be 30-foot trees growing in here. I mean, hopefully we'll be, picking figs and oranges in here.
Wow.
Easy to build with bottles and cans, too. Cans are just a really low-tech, easy way to build walls and forms. You just lay the can and you put a layer of cement in and lay the cans in, another layer, lay them in. And the cans are not the strength or insulation or anything. They just help establish the matrix of cement, which is the strength. The alternative would be just a solid cement wall. So think of how much more cement you'd have to use if you didn't have these cans.
Yeah.
Our county permitting lady, she came out just to do her walkthrough, and just the way we built the stairs wouldn't be permitted,
Wow.
And it's super strong. There's no reason it wouldn't be permitted, but it's just not in their way of thinking to permit a staircase like this.
Wow.
But we're just able to go off in here and do what we know works.
It looks Gaudian to me, like very.
Yeah, to me it's like a church.
Wow.
These houses, these are called the Simple Survival Earthship. To get an Earthship permitted in the United States, it's got to be pretty expensive because a house has to do so many different things, right? This is what we're experimenting to really keep the price down. We have solar panels, but it's these cheaper kind of rollout solar panels. And the idea behind it is, in most third world situations, you basically need lights and you need to charge your computer and phone. You see these black tanks in the window. So those just fill up every night, and in the day they heat up all day. And so by the end of the day, you got piping hot water. Now, it's not going to be as hot in the morning. It's not hundreds and hundreds of gallons of hot water, but this is the simple survival. This is what people need to survive. They got 15 gallons of hot water here. They got a little solar system that they can plug their stuff into.
Wow.
Hello? I think all the interns have cleared out, so if you want to see the inside. So like all Earthships nowadays, we have this greenhouse interaction zone. So this greenhouse is what can heat your house during the winter. You open up the doors to the room and the heat goes in. During the summer, you close these doors to keep the heat in here. And ever since we started isolating these greenhouses, we've really been able to control temperature. The old designs stayed between like 64, 74, but now our new designs are just straight line across the board, 71 degrees, without any outside heat or cooling. And we can see a cooling tube here. This is a pipe that goes through the earth that's buried the house. And so the greenhouse sucks the air out of here and it gets cooled by going through all that mass. And this is kind of our little air conditioning here. This is a vault. Underneath the adobe is a cage of rebar and metal lath. To build one of these ceilings is kind of low tech and easy, and in third world situations, we have lots of labor, and so this house takes a lot of labor.
And this is the kitchen?
Yeah, simplified kitchen. I think it's, you know, the normal kitchen is such a huge expense, and we're trying to simplify all the systems.
Wow.
Well, and look at this. This is what we call our digester. So after you take a shower, the water is going to go through the system that we use water 4 times. But so the shower water goes into here, which is a worm box. So the water goes in there and the worms help treat the water, and then it goes through into the gray water system afterwards. There's probably some worms in here somewhere. Oh, here's some worms. It goes from the shower into here, and then it goes into your planter.
Wow.
We really cherish water, and we only get like 9 inches a year here, so we got to save it and use it every way possible. This is a shower here. Yeah, after the water goes through your shower, it comes through the box, goes through the plants. Whatever water isn't used, we store in a little well, and it gets pumped into the toilet. So we use gray water in the toilet, so that's the third use of water. After the toilet, it goes outside to a self-contained black water containment cell. So that's the fourth use, is exterior landscaping. So 4 uses of water here. Wow. 16 years ago, when I came here, this community was shut down as an illegal subdivision, believe it or not. That was when some lawyer in town was fighting us, saying we were a legal subdivision, and people went along with it, and we actually got shut down, and people's lives got kind of shattered because of it. But then it seems like in the last 10 years, everything's switched, and they're realizing this is a positive thing. Let's not harass these people. Let's encourage them. Let's let them do their thing.
This one feels futuristic.
Yeah, well, my mom, who's 74, she's always said, Mike, she's like, oh, that Mike Reynolds, he's just ahead of his time. She just always says, she's like, he's just too far ahead of his time. And that's my, my conservative, wise mother. And she's right. He's really been pushing it. So this is the Global. Mike calls it the BMW of airships. This does everything any house in America does. I mean, this does it all. You know, you have plenty of power to do anything. It stays at a 70-degree temperature. It produces food, it collects water, makes hot water. It's just a really streamlined, incredible. This is 40 years of research and architecture from Mike that he came to this. I think he's pretty happy with this house.
Wow. Good.
The main thing that really keeps our houses at stable temperature is thermal mass. So we have these massive tire walls, and then we're buried with earth. That mass holds a steady temperature. Then we got the solar element. So in the winter, the sun shoots deep into the house, hits those mass walls. Those mass walls absorb that heat, and at night lets it out, which is something that seems unreal to me when I first came here, but it's amazing. You can feel your wall on a winter evening giving off heat. So this is the greenhouse, which can be closed off to keep the house cool in the back, or it could be opened up to bring the heat into the house during the winter. So it's going to be a little stuffy in the front part until we open everything up, and then it's just like air conditioning. But the back of the house will be 70 degrees right now, no matter what. But we have all these ventilation windows. Earthship kind of breeze, you know, you go in on a hot day, you open this skylight, you open this up and let it swish through, you know. It's a working system. It's almost a living creature because it breathes, it heats, it cools, it does all these things. There we go. These are operable skylights, and it's kind of a necessity in an airship. The air gets sucked through the house up and out of this skylight. That skylight's sucking the air out of this tube, and the air gets cooled because it's going through a big berm of dirt. So by the time it comes out here, it's nice and cool. So this is our kind of our passive air conditioning, which I think is one of the coolest inventions yet we've had. Earth stays at like a 55, 58 degree temperature. In the winter, you know, oh, it's getting cold in here, we just shut it up. In the summer, we open it. But to tell you the truth, I bet you whoever lives here keeps it open in the winter a lot too, just because you get that fresh air. So this house, you know, in a lot of ways looks very conventional. So we're trying to show people that airships can look like any other kind of beautiful architectural house. People get scared about tires and cans, but we can build these houses where you'd never see a tire or a can because we can cover them. There's tires under here, but we just plaster it over so it looks like your normal wall. So we get this huge, thick thermal mass wall for free and just cover it with a colored cement. This is the house that, you know, your typical American could actually live in. They would be happy enough because there would be enough power, there would be enough water, everything. This is an appliance that costs more than a normal refrigerator, but because we're on a solar system running off batteries, we buy these super insulated refrigerators that they don't use too much power. You can see how much insulation is around them. So the refrigerator is your most power consumptive appliance. So this is a really important piece of machinery to buy because it's going to be running all night and it really can take a lot out of your batteries. We got bananas here, one fig tree. Here's a grape. This house, it does all these things to be actually a working house. If you think about it, a conventional stick house needs heating. It needs electricity. You got to put all these things in it to make it work. This just works. So this big pro panel roof is our water harvesting element. So when it rains, all the water comes down to these gutters, goes into these tanks. They go through a few filter systems. First filter is this scupper, so a lot of the sediment will settle here and then it overflows into here, and the same thing fills up here and overflows, so your water's pretty clear by the time you get it. I mean, these look a little dirty, but they're actually, when this overflows, it's just, you know, pure clean water right there. Then it'll go through at least 5 or 6 different filters inside before you use it for washing your hands or shower. The water comes, you know, it'll rain, and then the roof catches the rainwater, and then we take a shower. That shower water gets filtered into our planter. At the end of the planter, it drops into a well. After you take a shower, your water is going to go through all these plants, and then right down here is a deep, deep well. Now, when I flush the toilet, this pump's going to go on because that's a gray water pump that is sucking up the gray water, and it's going to put recycled gray water into the toilet. And then it's in this box so we can, you know, keep it a little quieter. That pump just sucked 1.6 gallons of recycled gray water out of this well into the toilet. So our toilet water has already been used twice, once for, say, a shower, once for the plants, and then the gray water pump puts it in the toilet, and that's our third usage. It's not gross water, really, because it goes through different kinds of filters. We have charcoal filters in the planter, and the plants actually clean the gray water. So it really looks like normal toilet water, believe it or not. You know, a lot of people these days, they're really into humanure and composting toilets and all that stuff. And I've lived with a composting toilet before, and I did not like it. It's just too hands-on, if you know what I mean. Our system does the same thing, but it's like a conventional, normal system. You never see it, smell it, anything. Goes from the toilet into a septic tank outside, and then it overflows into a big rubber-lined exterior blackwater planter. And to me, that's a heck of a lot way to deal with your waste than mixing it up with peat moss and doing that whole process. We composted it in a way underground, away from everyone's sight and smell. And I think most Americans, you know, would appreciate that. What I've learned about living off grid and living off the rain, we get 8 inches out here. It's hard to live off 8 inches, but some people do it. But if you had 12 inches of rain, any American could live off that.
What does it cost to build a house like this?
The globals are like $225 a square foot.
Cheaper than a regular house?
That's the same as a normal house. But you'll save money on the long, you know, every year you live in it, you save more and more money. But then if you build it yourself, or you know, there's different ways to keep the price down too. Like my wife and I put a lot of sweat equity in our house.
This is all just 2 acres, you said? How much?
No, I think it's 690 acres or something.
But that's
But that one area that's 2 acres was designated as the experimental zone.
okay.
The rest of this, we have normal, you know, permitting requirements.
So, did you have issues then with your home?
No, because Taos County is pretty educated about what Mike does and the Earthship, so ours was just a design they were familiar with, and so it was no problem. You know, what's that noise? Don't tell me I have a flat tire, please. I think I do. What the heck? Oh, big hole. Okay, let me get home real quick. Come on. Where did I catch that?
Oh no.
Oh, we'll get home.
Is there an element of survival out here now that this is?
Well, you know, when I first came out here, there was only about 25 houses, and I'm from Los Angeles, and I felt like, wow, I got to be in survival mode out here. You know, you start learning how to do everything yourself, and, you know, you're at your friends a mile away, and there's a giant snowstorm, you know, you got to get home. Just kind of, that was all new to me and fun. Yeah, this is my neighborhood. This is where my kids ride their bikes. It's just people that want to live off the grid and like the idea of Earthships, you know.
It's almost like a Star Wars movie or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll show you my little house that I built, and the first person that came and visited said it looked like Luke Skywalker's house. So this is my house right up here. See that little dome? That's our little house that we lived in for 5 years.
At Target, low prices and great deals mean more.
The community was shut down and declared an illegal subdivision when we first came here, so we wanted to live here still, and so we built a structure that was the size of a storage unit. This will be good. All right. I'm working on the front entrance, so it's a little bit of a construction zone. Let's go to the front of it. Yeah. We came out here without any building experience and just a lot of enthusiasm. This is the hut. In 2 months, my wife and I built that, got into it right before winter, and we had a nice little Earthship survival pod to live in while we built our dream house. So it's under 120 square feet. So Taos County didn't need a permit for it.
How big is it?
It's a 12-foot diameter, probably 13 feet high. It's kind of a storage shed now. So yeah, we had stairs. We had a king-size bed up here with a TV. We had a couch right here, and we had a cooking stove right here. And we had an outhouse in the back. And this building stays between 55 and 70 degrees. If we put a greenhouse in front of it, it would stay between 65 and 70 degrees. For $2,500, we got a little house that kept us warm in the winter without any outside costs or heating. And it collects water. And it was a way for us to learn about Earthships and how to build them. My wife and I, our idea when we came out of here is like, man, if we could just build a tiny little house around our king-size bed, we're going to be happy. We'll be on our land. We'll have our own little house. We'll have no rent. We were really happy living in the hut. It was an amazing time. No mortgage, no bills, no kids at the time. You want to come in the house? Hey, guys. This is the living room. We got a little tiny wood burning stove in there, but to tell you the truth, we use it maybe 5 times a year. It's really kind of unnecessary. These are all tire walls, all tires covered in adobe mud. So tires everywhere, all the walls are just tires. This is almost like our main battery of our house, because in the winter sun comes and hits this, it absorbs that heat, and then at night it releases it. Our walls are like our heating battery packs. It's just a free-standing tire wall right here. Big heater.
So does it get warm with all the sun pouring in here?
Well, our design is a design that gets warm in the summer a little bit, but because we have the sloped glass windows, these are designed to be perpendicular to the winter sun. In the summer, the sun's, instead of out here and shooting into the house, it's just shooting right down. So we do get some sun in the greenhouse. And so it does get a little warmer than the new Globals do. The new Globals have that isolated greenhouse that we don't have.
But this is white.
See, this is a 16-year-old design. So we used to live with the greenhouse. And then Mike realized if we separate the greenhouse from the living space is going to be a lot better temperature.
This one?
So it's an older design that doesn't work as well as the Global, but it works pretty darn well. This is an old design, but the new principle of Earthships is actually kind of shown here. Is like, this is my kids' room, and we can close it off from the front part of the house. So as a consequence, it's always a lot cooler in here. And the floor is an adobe floor, which I absolutely love. It just feels so good on your feet. It's just sand, adobe, and straw. That's an operable skylight. So you just open them up or close them according to temperature. And this house is halfway in the ground. We're like, this is about ground level right here.
That's important.
Well, you don't have to be sunk into the ground anymore. We used to think we did, but it helps. You can build from the ground up and still be buried and still have all the same principles. It's still a good idea to dig them into the ground. It's kind of economical because the dirt that you excavate out of your house, you can use for your berm and things.
I love the bikes, the hand bikes.
Yeah. This is our master bedroom. It was our dream bedroom that we finally got done.
What we got here?
So this bedroom has its own gray water system.
And it has its own food.
Yep.
Does it?
Yeah,
Over there.
this is, yeah. What's that? Actually, mint.
Wow.
So yeah, we have mint and rosemary and then a papaya tree. This whole table was full of tomatoes about a week ago, but we still got the fig tree, the banana tree.
And maintenance free, as you're saying.
Yeah, don't have to water them. Okay, I'm gonna flush the toilet. So that's sucking the gray water out of the bottom of the planter down there. It's getting sucked into the toilet. Once the water goes through a series of baffles here, it drops into a well way deep. And then there's a hose down there. And when I flush the toilet, it senses that and it sucks up water and puts the gray water into the toilet. Then the black water system out here, have a really nice black water system. So all this lush green in here is part of my black water treatment containment cell. So after you take a number 2 in the toilet, it goes to the septic tank and then it overflows into this huge 20 by 40, 6-foot deep hole that's rubber lined and there's gravel. And so all these plants, their roots are tapping down to all that sewage that's about 4 feet underground. You don't smell it, you don't see it, but what happens is you get beautiful landscaping and I never have to water any of this. We're out here on the harsh high mountain desert and I got willows which grow by rivers and I never water these things. They're just tapping into the black water sewage that's down 4 feet down. All this just comes up because there's water down below and the plants know it. Mike likes to call these plants shit eaters, and that's what they are. They're just eating up all the shit. I started with one tiny willow, and once its roots locked into the black water system, the willows took over. So there's a huge root system now.
So this is like a great visual example of what the water you send down the toilet to the sewage system, like
Yeah.
could be doing.
Yeah.
You know?
And this is the 4th use of this water. So all this landscaping is just using the 4th use of water.
And this is permitted.
This is permitted, yeah, because this is exactly like a traditional leach field. What most people do is after you flush the toilet, it goes to a septic tank. That septic tank usually overflows into a leach field, which just means a big hole, which also means that the sewage can get into the groundwater. Now, out here, the groundwater is 800 feet down, so we could probably get away with a traditional leach field, but we want to hold on to that water. That's why we line the leach field, because we want that water. That water is valuable to us. So that water's, translated into plants. I mean, you can actually see the water. The black water is about 4 feet down. It doesn't even smell by the time it gets here,
No, it doesn't smell at all.
In town, people have leach fields that are polluting a lot of groundwater as we speak. This is contained. This is only getting used by these plants. It's not getting into the ground. It's not polluting anything. To me, I don't see why every house, every building in the world can't have these lined sewage treatment planters that grow plants. Why not? We're treating our sewage here in Taos and then putting it back in the Rio Grande where everyone swims. Why can't every house have a 20 by 40 black water cell? I mean, it works. It's easy. It's cheap.
And no maintenance.
And no maintenance. I don't water this. But these weeds are actually treating sewage, So they're actually a little useful. If you can put the time to put in a septic tank, then put the time to put in a 20 by 40, 6-foot deep hole, line it with EPDM rubber, and your sewage is treated for the rest of your life. You don't have to do a thing. Hey, I need your car for a little bit because my car has a major flat. Yeah. I pay $300 a year in utilities. $300. I like that girl. She's funny. And that's $100 for the propane for my cooking stove and $200 for a water delivery. Seems like about once a year when it gets really dry out here, we need to get a delivery of water.
All of them are equal.
And then when these ripen, my Xavier just pulls these down and eats them right off the tree. Those are figs, yeah. Probably makes 200 figs a year.
Wait, how much did you say a year the first time?
200? Every year.
Too little. Too little.
And for me now, I mean, I couldn't imagine living in town with a heater in the middle of winter, sitting in a dark little house with small windows and heating elements, cooking the air. I just can't imagine living that way. I like this natural way of living here. In a solar house or an airship, you want to get a special kind of refrigerator that doesn't absorb too much power, because the refrigerator is the most power consumptive appliance you're going to have. So this one's built super insulated. It's also wired DC, so it doesn't have to use the inverter to charge it on an AC. So this refrigerator costs a little more than a normal refrigerator, but it's just a necessity when you're living off the grid to have one of these kinds of refrigerators. Really efficient. All right. My kids have been raised pounding tires. This is actually our bedroom that we were just in when we were building it. They're also building their own house. So
They are?
yeah, there we have land at the other Earthship community. So I'm building a little house with my two sons and trying to teach them all the techniques so they can grow up knowing how to do it. It's a great thing for an individual to have these skills. Like, I feel like I can go anywhere in the world and build a house out of, trash. It's kind of empowering. I know I can go anywhere and just start building with bottles, cans, tires, and I can build a structure for somebody. Back 20 years ago, you could come here, put $1,000 down on a piece of land and start building that day. A lot of people are living here without a mortgage. They did it because of the way the system was back then. One reporter came and said, "Is this a cult out here?" And we said, "Well, if it is, it's a tire pounding, beer drinking cult." And that's about it. Now, this is a big hole up here. This is our gravel pit reclamation project. They dug out a huge hole to build this highway, and it was abandoned, and now we're making a neighborhood out of it. So that's what this is here. These houses don't have the views, and they're kind of sunken into the ground here, but the land is cheap here. This is where our affordable housing is.
I see one for sale. Like, what would they go for?
Well, those are tiny little houses. I don't know. Those are probably going for $50,000 or something. Yeah, they're just little one-room studio apartments. This right here is the Packager ship. That's like the 2000, 2005 design. And the Global kind of evolved from that. So those are what we call split levels. So that whole back row of the gravel pit's going to be these 2-story split level houses. There's no real ideological community thing except for the bonding of the Earthship idea. It's really tough to build your own house. You got to know what you're doing, or you just got to be really brave. Those are the earlier designs, like my house. They're called the U modular. So you can tell those are like early 90s houses. And then Mike got into making huts with the domes in around the late 90s. So that was the domes with the greenhouse in front.
How many homes are there out here?
I think there must be about 70 now. It's growing steady. Yeah. During the financial crisis, we were one of the only places that was still building.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea why?
Well, I think people they kind of got scared and they're like, I'm going to get an off the grid house. So a lot of people just decided to take what money they had and come here and to keep it in tight. Well, these are called the Nest, and it's just basically a studio apartment that does everything a normal house should do. It's just a small, self-contained house that they used to be like $50,000 to build, and I think this one's for sale for $50,000. So, well, once you start doing the work yourself, the cost really goes down. One thing about Mike is when I first came here, he was really big on the homeowner builder. He wanted to teach people how to build their own houses. It got him in a lot of trouble with lawsuits and stuff. a normal house has to be able to stay at 70 degrees all year around, and some of the earlier houses would get down to 65. So you couldn't defend it. We still encourage people to build their own houses, but we also got a little bit real. Sometimes it's just best for the company to build it instead of trying to get a client to build a house who doesn't really have the skills. This is the house that's designed to feed a family of 4. There's more space dedicated to plants than there is to living area. The 6 principles that all Earthships incorporate is water harvesting, contained sewage, thermal mass, thermal cooling and heating, building with recycled and natural materials, solar and wind electricity. And the last one is food production. And that's the one we're really working hard at right now to really get going, is the food production aspect of it. Big jungles inside. This house was designed to feed a family of 4. There's more space dedicated to plants in this house than there is to living space. We did have a tilapia pond going here. They're pretty shy, but we also got turtles and koi in here. But this is all with the idea of trying to create protein, trying to create food for people. And this is all experimental. And we're just learning, you know? So we're learning a little bit every day. We got, grapes starting to go here everywhere. Grapes everywhere. All these buckets are growing vegetables. Oh, this is a bell pepper, I think. And this is a way we've been experimenting to grow food, is to keep them in the buckets with all this like gravel down there. And we feed them through this pipe. And so it's a way to grow the vegetables in a self-contained container and use less water. The idea being the roots will come down and take up the water. So now it's going to be a lot cooler in the back part of the house. This is the second greenhouse here. This is like how all the houses are. There's the original greenhouse, and then there's the second part of the glass. But yeah, usually it's just all living space, but Mike put plants even in the living space.
Really cool in here.
Yeah, it's nice, huh? And this is all built out of tires, and it does all the same things a normal Earthship does. So yeah, you can just graze on your house.
How much effort is this? Watering,
You know what's amazing? I don't have to water it. The roots go down and absorb that gray water on its own. So you water it a little bit to get it established, but then it locks into the system and you don't have to do anything. This house will take care of you. This house will feed you. Chickens. But this is part of trying to feed, part of the food production thing we're doing, experimenting with. We are a highly experimental green building operation here. And we're always pushing the envelope. We're always getting better. If you can tell, each house is a little different because Mike will never do the same design twice, but this was the first solar survival. I know the interns are all moving out today because we're getting new interns on Monday. Hello. This is a 2-bedroom one. It's to house students here.
Good thing I just cleaned up.
Is it nice in there? Can we take a look?
My room, sure. I don't know about Mike's.
This one, the planter's more mature. So we got some fig trees starting to grow. Those will produce about 200 figs a year. Got a banana tree. Bananas at 7,000 feet?
This is Currently, where I've been staying for the past 2 weeks.
Nice. And comfortable.
Oh yeah.
How'd that house perform?
Pretty good. The only thing I kind of had to get used to whenever I turn to my side, I look right out the window and I see this huge banana tree right there.
This is Wolf. He's one of our students.
You learned how to build an earthship?
Yes, I did. I plan to build one very soon.
Really? Where?
Possibly in Utah, but I know another academy student who's going to come back here to Taos to build an earthship for his girlfriend's father, and I'll help him with that.
But getting permits, is that an issue? Tom, do you know?
We're working on that right now. We've got the land, we've got the funds, we just need the permission.
You know, I always tell the students, you know, if you could find someone in the county where you can make them feel like they're progressive by accepting this, that might be a better technique than kind of getting in their face and saying, you got to do this. But, you know, some people, you know, it could be good for their reputations to be progressive and accept this kind of building.
Everybody wants the new phone. Everyone wants the new iPod or the new car. Why can't they want the next house? Earthships are the future. No utility bills. The Earthship takes care of yourself. Grow your own food.
Not only are we in New Mexico, which is far away from everything, Taos County, far away, Taos, tiny little town, but then we're 20 minutes outside of town out on the high desert mesa, and it's amazing how many people from around the world come here because they're interested in the technology we got going here. That's what we hope with the Earthship Academy, is that we send out this army of knowledgeable students, and we're hoping that someone will do something like this in another country and it'll take off. So that's what the Earthship Army.
Okay. So who's here left in the room? Says there's only one person here. And whoever that is, do you want to keep watching videos, or you want to talk, or what? It's you. Yeah, it's awesome because most of those houses are made from what we call garbage. Bottles, cans, tires. And they just put cement around it. You know, make their own cement around it. How you doing today? That was Thursday, but thank you. Yep, big 66. I wonder where ERM went. Oh, is that back? Is it? Are you back, ERM? Hey man, good to see you.
Hey Larry. Just rolling a quick smoke. I gotta get out of the house. Mom's watching Bonanza.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, those are cool houses. But
yeah,
from my research, it's getting harder and harder to build them.
Yeah, that's the bitch. Is, you know, like I said, I think the reason they don't allow them is because they're self-sufficient.
Yeah, that's exactly why. There's no power going out there. You know, they truck in their water or whatever, and chicken feed, I guess that would be about it. Maybe not even, depends on how you reached it, right?
Yeah.
It's like that guy who's making that biochar in Oregon, in your state there, up in the mountains someplace where there's a logging operation. And he was taking all this wood and burning it and making charcoal to make biochar. And he had a self-sufficient thing going on there, and then it burnt down mysteriously. He was creating electricity, heat, and the place is self-sufficient. He was growing his own food in it. It was a pretty big place.
I wonder if they got burnt out.
Yeah, they did. He was trying to get funding to.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. I don't think it was probably an accident or nature. I think The powers above or whatever did it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I believe. I come to the same theory. It's like that guy that created the car to run on water.
Grape Roma.
You remember him?
I'm sorry, who?
The guy that created that dune buggy that ran on water. I think he was in your neck of the woods up west there. Could have been Oregon, I can't remember, but he created a dune buggy that ran on water.
Oh yeah.
And then he had a meeting with some Pentagon guys, and he told his last words, they poisoned me. And he died
Yeah.
at a restaurant.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, it gets stranger. There's been several other guys, individuals that have created this, machines that don't need, where the fuel was just readily available. And we've all ended up dying. And the most recent one was the guy that created he was a security guard at the last mass shooting. And I believe it was not Boston. It was someplace on the eastern seaboard, Baltimore. And he had an F-150 that ran on water.
Yeah.
And he was a security guard at this shopping center, and he was involved in a mass shooting. Show Jack Reacher. Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they killed that whole bunch of people just to cover up the murder of one guy. As soon as I found that out, I thought, wow, no wonder why there was a mass shooting in Baltimore. That guy figured out how to get vehicles to run on water.
Yeah.
Just got off right before I got on your channel. I was watching another Canadian talk with somebody in your neck of the woods. He's in Oregon, Portland, just out of Portland.
Yeah, it's about 2 hours for me.
Yeah, the show was done about 5 days ago. I was talking with another Canadian, Mike Martins, and what was happening to Canada's economy and how it was rigged. Yeah, we're in 90% of the jobs. Listen to this. If this is not communism, I don't know what, or socialism. We're sliding down this hill into socialism. 90% of the jobs that were created in this country were all government, public service jobs.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That is scary, more than crazy, but
Yeah. D all the above.
yeah, we got snow happening now, Larry. I don't think it's gonna fucking go away either.
Yeah. How far is town from you?
Well, I live in a small town. I don't know how many people in here. There's probably, I doubt there's 1,000, maybe 1,500. I don't know. We've got a lot of farm communities here. It's kind of like the irrigation capital, Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are cool houses, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, like I said, what's the coolest thing about it is they're made from what we call garbage, tires and bottles and cans, and they're all self-sufficient. It's just amazing.
Well, there was a community, I can't remember where it is. It's on highway number 11, south of Saskatoon, closer to Regina, actually. And they built these houses out of flax straw. And the mice don't like flax, like the straw, so it's mouse-proof. And it's super energy efficient because it's so thick, eh?
Yeah.
And they have, I don't know, probably quarter acre or so, maybe more, of solar panels. And they did the same kind of process, but the weather here, we haven't had sun. We had a couple days, well, a day and a half of sunshine, and then now it's cloudy again. So I know that they're still subsidized by the fucking grid.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I should let you go. We're not talking about too much, Larry.
I'm just, sitting here just shooting the shit, watching. I figured I'd watch videos and stuff until people got here, and today's been pretty slow. I didn't have anybody on this morning, which I thought was kind of weird. I hope everyone's okay.
Yeah, I watched East Coast Canadian show last night. He does a live on Thursday and Saturdays
Yeah.
about all the news clips from around the world.
Yeah.
Informative and entertaining at the same time.
Yeah. I got another one of those Earth ship videos.
Okay, we'll fire it up. Push play and I'll leave so I can go watch it. And I'll
All
be
right,
in the
man.
chat.
All
Talk
right.
to you later. Happy birthday, Larry?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's Thursday, but thank you.
Yeah, belated. Okay, talk to you later.
All right, take care. You too, man.
Soon, it's time to say goodbye. We've packed up our tools and for the first time get to take a walkthrough of the finished product that we've just created. Check it out.
All right, here we are, February, late in the month. I've already extended the closing date at least 3 times, but we're finally at that, I don't know, maybe we're completed roughly today. We still have a couple more inspections that I'm waiting on, the mechanical, the top out plumbing, and then a certificate of occupancy. But me and my crew are pretty much wrapped up. So today we're going to do a walkthrough. We're going to explain where we are with systems, and just to give you a feel of what the space is now that we've got like all the tools out of the way, all the chemicals, all that stuff, all the building materials are kind of out of the house. So really for the first time since I started building in the middle of probably early August, when I started pounding my first tire, you don't really get good spatial awareness until today. You know, with the doors closed, the skylights closed, all the glasses in, you know, all the appliances are in place. So now you got a really good vibe for the square footage of the space. And then what's fun about this is that you get an opportunity to sort of see how you would furnish it. You know, how would you live in this space? This is what I want to kind of cover today as well. Okay. So right now we're just going to kind of come on in. You can see the colors are on. You have to have all the colors. It was really tough because of the time of the year, cold nights. We had to really mess with the recipes. It's not ideal, but you cannot close on a property unless the walls are colored. They can give you a temporary CO with it, but I didn't want to go temporary. I wanted to finish it. Now the owners, if I have to do something in the spring, that's fine, I'll do it. But for now, we're going to try to turn the keys over here as soon as possible, and this was required. First thing I want to point out is the oversized door. This is a custom-made entry door. The reason why I did this is because I'm hoping that the homeowners are going to really focus on food production. It's really important that they do vertical food production with bucket growth. There's so many things that can grow in front of these windows. And then the interior gray water botanical cell will do the succulents for treating the gray water for the toilet flush, providing humidity for the interior space, controlling the climate temperature-wise. So that still does its Earthship thing, but I really am hoping that they're going to take advantage of the reason why I did this is so you can get a wheelbarrow in and out, and you can utilize this more as a greenhouse space rather than a 3.0 entry door, 36-inch entry doors. Come on in.
What was that?
An ad.
What were you just talking
Now
to?
that all of the systems are completed, we're still waiting on a water delivery because we used all the water up for construction, including any snow melt that we got. So that was great. We didn't have to buy water to build the building with, which this time of year actually benefited us. It hurt us in some ways, but in that case, that was.
Were you here that one day when we were looking?
So the system is ready. The the reception cell, which we covered
Your house
in
is
previous videos.
completely made
As
basically out
soon
of
as the
garbage,
shower gets turned on,
and they're self-sufficient.
and the kitchen sink and all that,
No-
and the laundry, all that water is going to go
air
here. It's
conditioning,
filtered.
no power bill,
Gravity
no
feeds
water,
down to the other end,
no-
ready for recirculating and flushing. Okay, and we'll cover that in a second.
Well, this was one guy said
Second
he
washer
lived out in
dryer
the middle of the
in today.
desert. He said it
This is
cost him
an LNG, which we
$200 a
converted
year
to LPG
water
yesterday.
because they
So we
only
have a little conversion
like
kit
8 or 9
that
inches
we
of
installed
rain
on
a
it.
year. Yeah.
So the gas company will come in, they'll pressure test all of the appliances. That's all kind of determines what regulator that we installed. I already told them what was going to be in the building. The on-demand hot water heater is propane. The dryer is propane. The stove is propane. I elected to do a DC refrigerator. Sometimes that could be propane. So you have to let the propane company know how many appliances are going to be gas. So they know how to pressurize the system, what regulators to use. So this way you don't burp your system and have back pressure if you've got, too many appliances trying to pull gas. Okay. So it's sized accordingly. Washing machine set up to run water into the gray water botanical cell. The on-demand is ready to provide hot water to the washing machine as well as the fixtures. So the systems are in and moments away from pumping blood into the veins and utilizing its utilities, which is really exciting. This is like my favorite part, of course, is to actually hear things working. The building coming to life. It's breathing now. What we have been putting together now. So this is a big thing. All this happening here and that as well. Let's cover the skylights real quick while we're here. Sailboat rope. This is 1/2-inch braid. Same thing you'd find on any sailboat anywhere in the world. Super accessible, including the cleat. Just simple boat cleat that holds the ropes. And then if you look up into the skylight, so what you see is you've got your sailboat rope inside of the CAM cleat, CAM cleat.
Right, I
cleat.
searched
And
for
then
the
there's
RL monk, nothing came up.
rope guide just above that, and then a stop knot
Maybe.
that goes through the eye screw.
We-
So you can see what's involved to have a mechanical system.
What
Something that's,
all right,
I don't know, electronic, automated, things like that. This is mechanical or passive. And that's what we have right now. So the skylight's pretty beefy because the weather out here gets really intense. The wind can kick around 80 miles an hour, no problem. So we want to make sure this thing is secured to the roof. So I have to wrap my hands around. I pull this cleat free, pull this cleat free, and then she just opens up nice and easy. As long as the previous footage explained the importance of a good rocker arm. So it's just the extension of the frame of the lid. And then we fill that basket up with rocks, bricks, cement, pretty much anything that's going to adjust for that perfect balance of weight. You don't want to get super crazy with a lot of weight because it'll just snap wide open. Okay, so same thing. Good grip. Feed it into the cleat. Feed it into the cleat. Sometimes, like I'll either do a crisscross to pull them into the cleat, or I'll take them like this and pull them into the cleat. That way it's down tight. So tonight the temperatures are going to be maybe about 18 to 20. So I want to make sure those Kerfit seals, those weather strips, are pulled down tight so we don't get a cold air draft. If you're not careful and you're just like, oh yeah, it's good enough, whatever, well, you got multiple problems. This is really important that you understand why these skylights have to pull down tight. If a cold air draft is underneath the weather strip, then that heavy, cold, dense air is going to come down into the planter and it's going to kill your plants. It will literally freeze them. Second problem, if those skylights are even cracked, moisture will build up at the in between where there's like heat trying to get up there, but then you got this air gap that's creating that, it'll freeze and that'll pull on the weather strip and it'll keep the lid from closing. So it's really important that you understand what the weather's doing and how you operate these things. All right, so
Maybe
kind of
here today. Oh,
moving
nobody
over to
came
this
to
side of the
call.
planter.
I mean,
We
it,
got our paver stones in. We got our,
like, I hope
you know,
everybody
organic topsoil. There's going to be,
I've
soil
had
is a little bit low.
Patriot
And
and
the purpose
everything.
for that is that when you bring in your banana trees
ARM.
or whatever they're going to
You've
plant
been
here
talking,
in
but
terms
he
of
hasn't
succulent
came up.
plants, it's going to have a bulb on it. And that's going to have soil already there. So instead of filling it up full, now I'm going to have a surplus of soil if I'm not, if I don't leave it a little bit low. Another thing I want to point out is these are only for construction. We actually have really good handmade blinds being custom made for each window in this building, including the door. So right now, because it's kind of an overcast day, it's the end of the day, we have a 3-day storm coming, I would shut the blinds. I would already have them down to trap the heat that I've actually got from some sunlight that I had today. But, you know, really I'm just relying on a little bit of the natural light, but there's really no more warmth. There's absolutely no solar gain coming into the building at this point. So this is where the blinds would come down. They would all be closed at this point of the day, 4:45, 5 o'clock here in the end of February. But if you're real slick, once you're living in it, you only close a couple of the blinds that are shadowed on the PDR. That way you're not letting any temperature transfer down on that end of the greenhouse because the heat automatically wants to go to the cold area. So we want to make sure that we're sort of regulating. You can automate that too with a computer and, you know, all the mechanisms that you need to close your blinds automatically. Has little temperature sensors that are built into the window boxes. Really pricey, but, you know, if you got a bunch of money and you're not home, you know, by the time the sun sets, it's not bad of it's a good investment actually. All right, so down here, we're not quite finished with it yet. We got our submersible 24-volt pump already set up inside. We got our plug, we got our DC plug back here, ready to go in. All I got to do is tie in the last little bit of plumbing, and I'm ready to start flushing my toilet.
Yeah.
It's important that when you build a brand new Earthship to know that you have to charge your systems. You have to charge your batteries. You have to charge your gray water cell with water so you can start the process. You have to charge the mass of the building, your trom wall, your stem wall, your concrete slabs, your bottom wall. You need to charge the mass. We've had the door open every day during construction. So it's going to take probably several weeks of regulating the way the building is charged. Once the mass is fully charged with the temperature, now you can have that little sweet spot. You know, it might still drop to 58 degrees, 55 degrees even because, you know, with the front door open during construction for the whole process, it's going to take time. But because the gray water cell is water, it's warm, it's underground, it's warm already just because of where it's stored. So that's going to release heat into the planter. And then with the assistance from the sun, those two things are going to come together. And then that heat goes through the single pane glass, through the door, through the transom, through the single hung window for the bathroom. You just want
I got
that
it,
heat.
take him out, and then I wasn't getting up
as quickly as we can, so they balance. Because the greenhouse will go to 130 degrees, but the main body of the house might only stay at like 62, 63, and that's not warm enough. That's not comfortable enough for the majority of humans. For me, I love it. If it never went over 60 degrees ever the rest of my life, I'd be thrilled. But most people want it at 70 degrees all day, not all night. I like it cool too at night. Most people sleep better at night. Anyway, that's my thing on charging the batteries, the gray water cell. The black water cell needs to be charged. Fortunately, the black water cell is charged. December, January, February, we've had plenty of moisture. We had, I don't know, something like 20 some inches of snow on the last storm. That's a big storm for us. So that black water cell, I already checked the standpipe. It's ready. It's got water in it. So landscaping can happen. We can reclaim some scarred land now. So we have the WALM hooked up now, finally. Took a little while, but we've got our water supply, which is right now currently just gravity feeding, goes in and up to this supply. This is turned off because we're waiting on a water delivery. We're going to try to get about 3,000 gallons of water delivered to the home. Same thing, I'm charging my cisterns. I don't have enough snow melt, and we used, like I said earlier, a lot of the water, if not all of the water, for construction. So fortunately, we didn't have to ship any in, which has been nice. All right, so you got your pre-filter here. You've got your 24-volt pump. I'm sorry, this is a 12-volt pump, 24-volt power source. So we put a step-down converter. So that means that if the house is producing 24 volts, but we have a 12-volt pump, I can invert that 24 to 12, so I can use the pump that I have. You can use a 24-volt pump, of course, but they're pricey and they're hard to get. 12-volt pumps are on every sailboat all over the earth. So that's why sailboat ropes, sailboat cam cleats, sailboat regular cleats, sailboat pumps, all of this stuff is earth ship. Hence the second half of the name of these buildings. We utilize the gray water just like you do on a ship. We use the renewable energies just like you do on a sailboat. So that's why like all of these things are pretty standard and quite affordable. Then you have your domestic filter, which is a 500. This is going to clean up water, not for drinking, but brushing your teeth, showering, bathing, cooking, all of that. This is a 500. There's a difference between a mesh and a micron. So the micron is the 500. So that's how tiny the particle that can pass through. So that means that over every inch of screen, there's these precise holes that will block particulates, in some cases bacteria. These are not bacteria filters. The next one will be. The reason why I need to filter bacteria is because now I'm moving it for drinking. So in this Earthship, in this part of the planet, we don't worry about air pollution. We're at 7,000 feet above sea level. We're in the high mountains of northern New Mexico. We have like 2 planes that fly over every day, and it's Julia Roberts and Mr. Bacon that owns the ski resort. So no big deal. It's not like commercial jets flying and dumping fuel to level the weight. So the filtering unit that is built in this home is specific for this part of the planet. If I'm building in, I don't know, West Virginia, down the road from a coal burning power plant, well, you're probably going to fill the entire wall with what we call a WOM, a water organizing module. These filters would never work. It's a great pre-filter for rainwater or even, there's a couple of different things. You can have a well, you can pump your water up from the aquifer, or you can have a surface water system. So you can direct water to underground tanks, kind of recirculate it, and then run it through something like this. That's fine. But if you're in an area that's got high pollution, a lot of air traffic, trains, planes, cars, and industry, well, we're talking about a whole different design that we can provide, but it's very expensive. But, what's your health worth? What's the health of your family worth? This is a crucial retrofit that I have taught when I was working with the Academy with Earthship Architecture. I really keyed in heavy on, really testing water, understand what it's like when it's coming in the house and what it's like when it's coming through the house. And then all the other water recycling systems that we do, which is 5. We use 5 water recycling systems on every Earthship. Pressure tank, really simple, 38 pounds per square inch. Good pressure for a small house like this. Maybe a bigger house, I don't know, 1,200 square feet and up. You might look at, 42 PSI or even more, because you got longer runs to push water. But the pressure tank came from the factory at 38 PSI. So we have a 30-50 pressure switch, all pretty standard. I'm not sure if we put it in yet. I don't see it. I see a pressure gauge right here, but we need a pressure switch installed somewhere on the line. And that's what's cool. It can be anywhere I want. So we still, like I said, there's a couple small things left to do on getting gray water, black water, all that stuff going on. Let's go ahead and move in.
Just one guy made a good point.
Okay.
Like, look how much
Feel the temperature difference there.
Yeah, oh
without
yeah.
the bottles there, you know.
Oh god, yeah.
And they all make the cement by hand with the dirt shit that.
Is there any circumstance more terrifying than when a child goes missing? I don't want this to be real.
Right now I want to cover the power system. So this house has 2,200 watts or 2.2 kilowatts of solar, 6 panels, 3 75s, I'm not sure, I haven't done the math, which is amazing. Because when I started doing this 17 years ago, my 17-year anniversary is March 1st. So about a week away. When I first started doing this in 2006, I paid $5 a watt. So 1,000 watts, 1 kilowatt cost me almost $5,000. I have 2.2 kilowatts of solar on the roof, and I want to say I spent probably about 65 cents a watt, 75 cents a watt. So I haven't done the math, but 2,200 times 0.75 is what I paid. Amazing. It's amazing. It's just so cheap compared to what it was when I started my career. So what you have is, this is a plug and play unit. We used to build them independent. We'd have an inverter, we'd have a charge controller, we'd have a low voltage disconnect, we have the mate so you can program. Back in the day, we couldn't program it from our smartphone or laptop. Now everything is all synced up. So if I'm traveling and, you know, I get an alert from my system, I can adjust it to protect my batteries. That's all I care about. I just don't want my batteries to get destroyed when you're away. So the power system's all hooked up. We've been now working with solar power instead of generators. Thank goodness for that. Just the noise pollution, the air pollution, the cost of oil and fuel, ripcords, just maintenance is a disaster. Now it's maintenance free, we're good. We have our batteries down here. Okay, so the batteries here are, I wouldn't say like cutting edge, super high tech, but these are AGM batteries. These are sealed gels. This is great. No distilled water, no service kit like we had back in the day. You'd have to have a turkey baster, funnels, gallons of distilled water. You'd have to have anti-corrosive salves for the terminals, because you have two metals that are producing electricity, which is fantastic, but they hate each other. So they basically eat at each other, just like your car battery does. So as that, you know, disintegrates, that acid just builds up. That's all toxic. None of that's good for anybody. And the other thing is, you can never have them. I shouldn't say you can't have them in the house, but there's a lot more involved if you want to keep your batteries in a warm space like I have. You have to have special ventilation tubes to let the hydrogen gas release out of the building. Here we don't have that. It's sealed. There's no off gas, no maintenance. The downside, there's two of them, really expensive. You're looking
I was
at
going to come
roughly,
up this morning, but
compared to a Deca lead acid battery, 6-volt battery would cost you
she sent me
$250
a link.
wholesale, maybe a little less, a little more retail. These are almost $600. And who knows, tomorrow they might be, I don't know, $1,000, just because everything's ridiculous. But I don't want to get on that kick. I've already been arguing with every supplier I've been dealing with. They don't want to hear it either. So we have 4 AGM batteries. They are set up, and you have to know the difference between like series and parallel. Because it's 24 volts, we have to wire them all together. So 6 times 4 is 24. We have it set up as a combined unit, whereas some people might add a second battery bank. If you've got a lot of draw and you need a lot of storage, you might parallel and series a twin bank system. 704 square feet. This is more than enough power. We're floating at 9:30 in the morning at the end of February. You know, unless they come in and plug in a bunch of hair dryers and microwaves and, you know, some crazy heating element, it just zaps them. This thing is more than power you'll ever need in a super efficient eco green home like we have. LED lights, top of the line, state of the art pumps, whatever's available at this point. So that's everything we got. Back in the day, this would be a DC panel. This would be an AC panel. Now, this is an AC panel. This is a DC panel. Inverters are super efficient now. Lighting super efficient. Even pumps, appliances, all that. So most people nowadays that are building off grid are doing pretty much only AC breakers. I still have a few DC breakers. I like it for my refrigerator. I like it for my toilet, because those are two things that if your inverter fails, you don't want to be without. Your food's going to rot and you're going to be pooping in a bucket, and that sucks for both. So I make sure that no matter what happens with my AC electricity, even without lights and certain things, certain fixtures, like maybe even my hot water heater, that runs on AC for the igniter now, which also is a bummer. That's a new code requirement. And then, again, I wouldn't be able to flush my toilet. I wouldn't be able to protect my food source. If this is June or July and it's 95 degrees outside and I lose AC electricity, I'm a dead stick. But because I use DC still, which the electricians hate me, they don't like running the wires. It's just, it's a little thicker and a little harder to work with. I don't care. You're going to put it in because that's what I paid you to do. So that's basically what's happening pretty much in a nutshell right there.
This is a story about a magical place where everything's amazing, especially the people. We can tell you everything there is to know about over 400,000 different pieces of gear. We have 18 million.
This year, again, this evolved. If everything is on, it should turn on. So there you go. Now the other side, because it's late February and we have a storm coming in, it's still insulated. It's all closed up with an insulation door, insulation kind of put into the tube. But right now, it's just creating that active air passage or air filtering. Typically, this is passive. So normally, this would just be a screen, two screens, and you would just open up the door and the back door, and then you just come on over here, and you just grab this little rope, and you open up your transom window. Okay? So both ends are open. This is pre-fan HEPA, and it was all passive. So the air just kind of pulls up, and then when you open up your two skylights, it just, and the reason it can do is for very good reason. That greenhouse has been charging all day, every day. So that heat is all out in that greenhouse, and it wants to escape. So the minute I open up those skylights, that heat just pulls up out. While at that same time, it just goes, hey, come on along here with me. And it draws all that air down through the tube, through the transom, up through there. But because of the fire smoke and climate change and man's assault on the environment, I had to evolve it. I didn't want just air coming into the house if it's polluted. So I had to redesign this whole thing to address every single summer. It seems like we're dealing with more and more smoke. So that's all what's going on. We have footage of the way I made the tubes, special welding, weep holes in case there's condensation builds up inside of it, and it wicks down into the French drain. And so all of that is kind of, also happening. So I put a lot of time and energy into designing this whole air filtering design based on stuff we've been doing for decades. Let me think. We started doing cooling tubes, not decades, maybe like 15 years ago, a couple years after I came here. Now we're going to back up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of just go through the user-friendly aspects of off-grid housing. I don't know. People think that we rough it You know, we struggle. Yeah, pooping in a bucket is one. You know, I don't know. We're exclusively just hunting and gathering. I mean, I want for nothing. When I build this house, it's with all the creature comforts that everybody has that's on the grid. But the difference between what I have and they have is they have a whole bunch of utilities and a life support system that maintains that. My home takes care of me no matter what. So yeah, I pay more money up front to build it at today's cost, but in the long run, it just gets cheaper and cheaper every day I'm living here. So as I take you through the home, you'll see that, okay? So we're gonna start in the kitchen. We're gonna start with my stove. This is LPG. I have a large underground propane tank. So this is gas, my dryer, and the on-demand. I figure I have about a year of propane. So time, and you're carried all the way through the winter. If there's a price hike, it doesn't